I've got to fix some steering slop on my four-wheel drive Traxxas Slash, so I figured I'd go ahead and do a video so you guys can see how to repair it if you're having the same issues that I'm having. So here's what's going on. I've got a lot of side-to-side travel in the wheels, sort of connected, sometimes not. This driver's side one, as you can see, really just moves a whole bunch without any of the without the servo moving and without the other wheel moving too. So I want to go ahead and show you what that is. There's a part called a bell crank down inside here. There are two posts on your front bulkhead that have some arms that are supposed to move back and forth. Well, mine move back and forth, but they definitely move too much. And depending on what trim of Slash you bought, you may or may not have this problem. The Slash Ultimate is going to have bearings, and every other Slash is going to have little nylon bushings of sorts down inside there. And that's what mine has, because this one just started out as a brushed Slash, and I converted it over. So let's go ahead and take a look at the repair parts. So right here we've got 4 bearings that we're going to need. This is the Traxxas part number. I'll put a link in the description as well. Super tiny little bearings. You need 4 of those. And then here's the bulkhead right here. So you don't have to replace this, but more than likely, if your steering is as sloppy as mine, it's going to be a good idea to swap this out. And here, let me just open it up and show you why. So these little arms right here will start to get deformed, and they'll actually get really bendy and weak. So we'll set that to the side. Go ahead and pull this car apart. I recommend you buy this Traxxas toolkit if you don't already have one. It's going to make your life so much easier. Having one of those in your RC bag is just a fantastic tool. First thing we're going to need to do is disconnect our steering servo. So we're going to flip the car over, and we're going to use a number 2 Allen. And we're going to disconnect this piece of hardware right here. So just go ahead and center it up straight up and down, and we can disconnect it there. I like to do it up and down, that way I know where to put it back together. Just makes it easier. If you want to, you can leave this connected, and you can just pull that screw right there instead. Okay, once that one's off, we're going to switch up to a 2.5 millimeter Allen to take out the rest of the screws, and they're going to be up on top. We need to remove 4 for most Slashes. Some we're going to remove 6. So we have 1 here, 1 there, and then we have here and here. If you have an anti-roll bar, you're going to need to loosen those 2 right there. So let me go ahead and get those taken out. Here's our front ones. They are different sizes, so just remember that. And our rear ones. And just a heads up, the ones that are in the rear here are going to be the shorter ones. They're just a little bit shorter than the front ones. So once you get those out, you'll just pull this out, and it's going to come out with the drive shaft. We can go ahead and put the rest of the car away just to save some space here on the workbench. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at the main problem here, which is the bushings for the bell crank. So down inside here, these things just move all around because all they have holding them from wiggling are just some little pieces of plastic, and that's where we're going to put the bushings. We do unfortunately have to remove a whole bunch of this stuff, so I'm going to start off. We're going to do the tie rods here and here. So we'll go back underneath, switch back to a 2 mil. So I'm using a hot racing bell crank, which is aluminum. Your factory one is just going to be plastic, more than likely. I do recommend using the hot racing part for sure, just that way it's not going to wear out, you know? Especially if you're going through all the trouble with these bearings on. All right, so we've got those removed. You go ahead and remove the front bumper here and these screws down here. Go back to our 2.5 mil. 3 screws on the bottom for the bumper. So now on these two are going to be longer screws, and one's going to be a little bit shorter. These two are longer, and that one is shorter. Now we're going to switch to the top. There are 2 mil back in. There are 2 screws up here. Let me see the camera. There we go, right there, and we're going to remove those and pull the bumper off. Okay, bumper will just pull out like that. We can set it to the side. All right, next up we're going to remove this little screw right here. It's also 2 mil, and this plate attached to this bulkhead piece here on the bottom also helps retain the A-arms. Just stick that screw back in there. Okay, then the A-arms can pull out here in just a second. There we go. There's 1 and 2. So it'd be a good time to replace these if they're bent. Just if they're bent or not, you can roll them across the table. Mine are okay though. Okay, A-arms are now loose. Just got a little bit more. Switch back to our 2.5, and now we can remove these 2 right here. Okay, so now the bulkhead is off. We'll go ahead and set this aside. And we can move over our bell crank and our new bearings and hardware to the new bulkhead. So we've got our new bulkhead on the left, obviously. We're going to take our 2 mil once again. Loosen up these 2 screws here. These are going to be pretty long. They're both equal length, and I'll tell you right now, there's a very tiny little metal washer right here that you need to make sure you don't lose. There we go. Make sure we keep that little washer. All right, now we can lift the bell crank assembly off in one piece. Right there you can see the 2 little factory plastic bushings that go bad, and there are 2 stuck in the top of the bell crank hardware right here, so we can just pry those out. Now, depending on if you have the factory plastic bell crank or not, you'll either put these bushings in here or you'll put them down onto these shafts. So the hot racing bell crank will accept those bushings and actually hold them in place pretty well. If you're reusing your other stock bell crank assembly, then you may have to put these bearings down onto the shafts because they'll probably just try to fall out of the bottom. Okay, so now all this is trash. I guess you could hang on to it if you really wanted to, but there's no reason to. Sometimes you'll notice that these are a little bit more wiggly than the new ones. The new ones are probably going to be more stiff, which is a good thing. All right, we'll slide our bell crank on. Much tighter of a fit. Definitely took some effort to get that on there, which is good. You don't want them wiggling all around because that was the problem in the first place. Just make sure you get the bearings fully seated. Then we can just reinstall our hardware and make sure you have that little washer on there. Okay, so this whole assembly is going to be what the fix is, or cause of the problem, if you have that sloppy steering. So now there is no side-to-side movement whatsoever in the entire bell crank assembly, which is what we want. So at this point, it'd be a good time to go ahead and check your little tie rod or ball joint ends right here. See if there's any play in those. This piece is new, so they don't have that much play in them. But past this, we can go ahead and start the reassembly process. First, I'm going to be opening this up back on here. There we go. That's kind of hard to do on camera. All right, put these guys in first. And get our pins back into the A-arms. Okay, good. There's a pin plate here on the front. Oh, backwards. Going the wrong way. Yeah, backwards no, because this will screw right here, not right in. Slide bumper back on. Remember these two longer ones are going to go in front. Go to the top. So these top two. Alright, so for me, using hot racing milk crank, I'm going to use some blue Loctite on 2 screws for the side rods. So these right here, they go into the milk crank. On mine is aluminum. So if you don't use sorry, lock in there, definitely going to go no time. That's before you get a full battery to your car. So make sure you use Loctite. Okay, so we're all set there. We can get our chassis back on. Alright, so for this part, our bulkhead is brand new. So for these two back screws, we're actually going to have to make some new threads. Not hard at all, just means you're going to push down a little bit harder when you're putting everything in on these back two. So we'll start with our front ones. Okay, so our sleeve board down in place. Okay, and our final two screws are going to be new screws. First one's going down in this hole. Just put your fingers down the bottom and support that bar as you thread in the screw. Okay, don't forget, you want to start out your brand new bulkhead parts. Second over here, and I'll support that screw as well. Okay, so our final step is going to be to install our servo screw, and it's a good idea if you think you may have accidentally bumped your servo to go ahead and turn your radio on, and what that'll do is it'll just recenter your servo. So I'm quite confident that I didn't touch mine. So we'll pull this screw out. Set that up there, and then actually I'm going to need to put some Loctite on this screw. I've got a Savox servo in here, which is a really good part, but it does have a metal splined output shaft, so sometimes the screw will come loose. If you're using the factory Traxxas one, you won't have to worry about that. But there you go. So we are all set, and we've hopefully eliminated a lot of that play, which I can already tell we definitely have. And I can tell because whenever I move one wheel, the other one moves as well. So the problem I was having before was my wheels were turning, but they weren't turning together, and they weren't turning the servo all the time. So I know this video kind of wasn't really great for angles and things like that. It's like 100 and something degrees here in the shop, so trying to get this done quick, but still wanted to do a video so I could maybe help somebody else out there having this problem. I'll put a link in the parts, or a link in the description for the parts that I used in the video. And if you have any questions, put them in the comments. Thanks for watching.